NEK VT Rocks, and my guest today is Lila Bennett from Journey to Recovery Community Center.
Yes.
Welcome back.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's great, and I'm seeing all these wonderful things that JRTCC is doing. I'm not sure which is the easier way to say it, frankly.
Yeah,
but
JTRCC
right.
is what we say. Yeah.
Last time you just moved into a new space, and now you're really there with your feet under the table and doing some amazing things.
Yes, it's really exciting. We've been open. We started in March of 2021 in our new location, so it's been really almost 2 full years in our place, which it doesn't seem like it could be that long.
Right. And that was still during COVID time.
It was during COVID time, so it was actually kind of a blessing in disguise for us because we could get our programs up and running slowly and exactly the way that we wanted to get them up and running, and develop the culture of the center and access the people that needed us the way that they needed. So at the time we did a lot of virtual, which we still do, but we were able to develop that and have like Zoom meetings and hybrid meetings. And now that we're really a year out from having to focus mostly on virtual access, we are very busy with in-person supports.
So how many groups do you have running?
Oh, that's a good question off the top of my head. We have a group every single day except for Saturdays. So we have AA on Sundays. We have Families in Recovery on Mondays. We have NA on Tuesdays, Narcotics Anonymous. We have Families in Recovery on Wednesday. We have Seeking Safety on Thursday. We have Families in Recovery on Friday and All Recovery on Friday. And we have Al-Anon also, on Thursday. So we try to have something for everyone every day for the groups. And then if people can't make it to the groups, we have one-on-one coaching available all day long. So we try to make it so that people can get what they need.
That's great. And you have an amazing new program, which of course is really why you're here today.
Yes.
Tell us.
So we noticed when we opened that we had a gap in our system.
Only one?
We had one particular gap in our system that we're going to talk about today. And that gap is that when somebody gets to that breaking point of severe substance use crisis, where they know like they've got to do something different, whether they overdose or they're just drinking too much or whatever it is that just gets them to that point of just like, I can't do this anymore. They were heading to the emergency department and getting there, and we have a program in the emergency room where we send coaches in to meet with people who are in that moment. But a year ago, 2 years ago, our coaches would go in, the person would say, I need help, and we would call the inpatient rehabs with them. We would look at what their next steps would be, and inpatient rehab was 2 to 3 weeks out from when they could.
Ridiculous.
Yeah, just the waiting lists were
too long.
Way too long. And so then people would then be medically cleared, because also our emergency room, for one thing, is very small, and at the time very overrun with COVID. And there was just no capacity for being able to hold people who were maybe trying to detox. There was nowhere. And so if they were not in a life-threatening situation, they were sent home. So what do you do when you get sent home?
You go right back out.
You go right back out. Excuse me. So that's what would happen. So as much as we would try and keep in touch with people, call them, be like, don't lose hope, lots of times they just wouldn't end up going to their bed. And so then it was like compounding this problem of like, the rehabs were full, but then people weren't showing up. It was just like a big disaster. So we started tracking that, and we tracked exactly what was happening with everybody who got into that situation. And we noticed that if we had a place for them to go to wait for their bed, that they were much more likely to make it to rehab, or not go back out and end up back in the emergency room in the same crisis a few weeks or months later. And that's really what we were trying to do, is just like get people the help they needed at the level they needed when they needed it. And so,
common sense.
Yeah. Who knew it would be so difficult?
Right.
So now about a year ago, I brought the little bit of data that I had to our Accountable Care Collaborative, Vibrant One, which stands for Orleans Northern Essex, and said, hey, I'm seeing this. What can we do? I think we need this interim bed. And the group took it seriously and said, that seems reasonable. It seems like we should do something like this. And the cool thing was, like, I had the data that I had before I brought it, and then I continued to collect that data. So it was like every time we had a meeting, I had more data. And it was like, here you go, and a lot of the time we had the original people had now repeated their visits to the emergency room, sometimes many times. We even had up to 13 times having the same cycle.
And still no bed.
And no bed in time.
Right.
And so we, as a collaborative, chose to hire the Pacific Institute of Research and Evaluation to help me compile that data and really do a needs assessment, like an official needs assessment, which we did. And we completed that in August and determined, lo and behold, that we did indeed need this. And originally I was trying to do like a 6-bed social detox and like refurbish our basement and stuff. And that was just going to take too long. It was just like too big of a project. So we decided, since we had the space in our current recovery center, to apply for a health equity grant and refurbish one of our rooms and turn it into this detox. And I had been meeting with the CEO of the hospital about substance use in general, and about there's a lot of complexities when somebody is in that level of crisis, and especially now that we have fentanyl.
Yes.
Before it was like heroin is such a big deal, and it was a big deal, but we hadn't seen nothing yet.
Right.
Fentanyl it's a tremendous problem, and it affects people and deteriorates their ability to hold jobs and make good decisions very, very quickly. And takes away that like good person who was there and turns them into somebody who's just like running away from feeling sick. It's not even like trying to get high. They just don't want to be sick.
And it kills really quickly too.
And it's very deadly. So we had been talking with the hospital about what to do with providing rapid access to there's medication called Suboxone that people who are trying to stop using opioids can take to help with the detox. And our hospital really didn't have a clear rapid access to medication program. And so we were really pushing for that at the same time as we were having these conversations around the detox. And for me, this was also a really big learning. How can you safely detox somebody not in a medical setting?
Right.
And so I went to the state of Vermont and was like asking about how that works, and they said, well, there's actually something called social detox. There's medical detox, which happens in a hospital or a medical setting, and then there's social detox, which is like basically what people are trying to do at home, which is very difficult to do.
Yes.
So I said, oh, that's what we want to do. So we got all this funding, and we got there. We refurbished the room. The hospital said, I asked them, if they would be willing to donate a hospital bed, and they said yes, and all the linen. So we do a linen exchange every day. They bring it over and take the linen back,
Wow.
whatever we need, and they do all the meals. So we call and order our meals from the hospital 3 times a day for the client. We provide the snacks, but so this did become a really wonderful collaboration between the hospital and us. And so what that has also done is it's allowed this extra bit of support between the nurses and the recovery coaches, because sometimes nurses are really overwhelmed, and nurses aren't trained to understand how to support and help somebody in that kind of substance use crisis. They don't get enough training around that, and in our area with fentanyl like bombarding the scene, they're in a situation that they don't know how to help, and nurses are too generalized. So it's,
You're being very kind here.
Yes.
I'm an RN, amongst other things. Even if nurses have that kind of training, they don't have the, quote, bandwidth to be able to do it in an ER setting.
no, and
Your patience wears out really fast.
and it wears out, because you're also if you have somebody who's coming in with a heart attack, they're
Stuff you can
scared
do.
and they want help, and they're going to listen to whatever you are
And the
saying,
things you can do.
and you can do something.
Right, and that's the piece that's missing with detox.
That's right.
There's nothing you can do.
There's nothing you can do. You come in and you're having a terrible time, and you're miserable, and you're not at your best, and you also probably aren't the most polite.
Right.
Sometimes people are. So if someone comes in and they're feeling terrible, they need some relief, but they don't even know what they need.
Right.
And Suboxone isn't going to help someone who has just recently used. It will actually
Right.
make them sick. So it's a very complex time. And so nurses are frustrated. Their morale drops because they can't do anything right then.
Right.
So this social detox has built this beautiful relationship where the nurses feel supported too.
Right.
Everybody gets support. And there's something that we can all do.
Yeah.
And so it's not this discouraging, well, you can go home.
Right.
And so it's creating a positive atmosphere and a proactive atmosphere, even when people go to the emergency room. And there used to be a lot of fear about going to the emergency room. People would
Right.
call us and say, I'm not going. I don't want to go. All they're going to do is send me home.
Which is true.
Which is true. And so now we can say it's going to be okay. Anyone who comes to our bed does have to go to the hospital first. It's
Right.
just to make sure that everybody's going to be truly safe and they are medically
And
clear.
safety is really important
And it's
for
very
everybody.
important. And so what we are doing right now is we are working very closely with the doctors. They are prescribing safe medications for the patients to have when they come over. And then they are able to stay with us until we can get them into treatment or to their next step, whatever it is.
How long can people stay?
So really as long as it takes.
Wow.
To get them in, that's what we're doing, because
And-
it's one bed, and so we're tracking each person. So right now, we've had people in the bed for as short as 8 hours. They
And then you actually got
got
them
them
somewhere else?
straight to rehab. I
Wow.
was like, wow. We've actually had a couple of people who never even came to the bed. We had a stack of patients in the emergency department, and thankfully through all of this, the other ripple effect that's happened is Valley Vista in particular has stepped up to support our clients to get into treatment because they want to see the success of this as well.
Sure.
And so the director of Valley Vista is working with me very closely. So every time we have someone in the bed, he is on it and he is working to get our person straight through. So that doesn't always happen. The longest so far is 5 days, and then recently we just had someone leave this morning who came in on Monday. And
This is really team building at its best.
It really is.
Yeah.
It really is. And the other wonderful things that are happening is while the person is in the bed, we are able to get to know them.
Right.
And we get to know what's happening for them, what's triggering you, what's your history, what other kind of resources do you need? Do you need food stamps? Do you need to talk to somebody from Umbrella? Do you need to set up an appointment with NKHS? Do you need a different counselor?
Do you need somewhere to live?
Do you need housing? Yes. Do you want to stay in this area? If you don't want to stay in this area, let's talk about that and let's figure out what the next steps are while you're here. So we're going to start this now so that when you're done in inpatient, we have a plan. And so being able to do all of that stuff ahead of time is working.
It's what we used to call wraparound services.
Yes.
But right in the moment.
In the moment.
Yeah, that's amazing.
And so people are feeling supported and they're getting hope. And they are, you know, especially at those moments where someone says, like, I failed in every way. You know, I've burned every bridge. I have no money. I'm living out of my car. No, you know, my family shouldn't give me another chance. You know, we are there to, like, put the steps in place for whatever the next steps are to set them up for success. And we're tracking it. And so far, we've sent now nine people since we opened. No, I'm sorry. We've sent 11. We've had 11 people on the bed, and 9 have gone to treatment. So we had 2. One, it was like a double. We had one person leave, and then she came in, and then she wasn't ready. We couldn't get her a bed in time.
Right.
And she kind of lost hope. But by and large, we are having a lot of success with people who are ready and they want to go, and we're capturing in that moment. And now we have 3 people who have now returned.
That was going to be my next question.
And they are doing amazing. They're engaging with us. Like I think also building the trust beforehand. They're comfortable coming to the center. They feel like it's home.
A place to come back to. Yeah.
Yes.
A place to call home.
Yes, right. They've built the relationships with the coaches. They've familiarized themselves with the groups. Like anyone who's staying in the detox bed can participate in any of the groups.
Yeah.
And they do.
Yeah.
And so they're already getting familiar with what happens at the center.
And they're making connections.
Yes. And so it's definitely working.
That is so encouraging.
Mm-hmm. It's really exciting. It's exciting to see because it's hard when to see someone who is so ready and then lose hope.
Right.
And know that they are capable. Like we know they're capable.
And I presume those, quote, working on the street with other organizations know that you have this resource and can start funneling people towards you.
Yes, we're doing everything we can to get the word out. Obviously, the Accountable Care Collaborative, because we built this as a team, they're all very aware, and so they are referring. Another cool thing that we're doing as part, sort of as part of this is every Friday afternoon we have community partners come. So we have the Vermont Department of Labor, we have Higher Ability, we have NKHS, and we have representatives of each of those organizations at the center. So people can come, they can participate in group, they can do their peer support coaching, and then they can work on their resume, or they can look at the jobs, they can get some job interview coaching, they can sign up.
Which is a big deal.
Which is a big deal. We've also had 2 of our clients come back from rehab and sign up for IOP, which is intensive outpatient through NKHS, because the navigator is there. Yeah. And so it's like, you know, one-stop shopping to get your supports. And sometimes that's a huge barrier when you have to be at NECA and you have to be at NKHS and you have to get everywhere and you don't have a car. Right. And you're trying to coordinate your RCT ride or get on the bus. And it's
What bus? I mean,
and
again, the buses are almost non-existent.
right, and it's really overwhelming,
Yes.
especially when you're in crisis.
Absolutely.
And that's another fun part of this, is being able to help people like take a breath and make the plan and get them what they need without getting overwhelmed. So
It's pretty amazing.
it's really exciting.
Are you hoping to expand the beds? I know you were talking about 6 initially, and then reality struck.
Right. Yes, I think so. I think the next step that's exciting about all of these conversations is, so it's a couple things. One, as we have grown our center, we have a lot of training that goes into becoming a excellent peer support coach.
Right.
And what that's doing is that's legitimizing peer support in general.
Right.
And what peer support means, what Journey to Recovery, the basis of what we are, is we are trained professionals who are not therapists, but we are people with shared and lived experience.
Right.
So we have been there. We're human beings, we're people who have struggled, and we've had to do the work personally to change our lives.
Right.
And then we have taken the next step and chosen to get the training and the education to be able to properly give back.
Mm-hmm.
And that's happening statewide. And the effectiveness of peer support is becoming proven, that it really helps. And it's helping people who can't get in with a therapist right away have somebody to help them. And so the next beautiful thing of this whole collaboration is the increased collaboration with Northeast Kingdom Human Services. That, as we all know, NKHS went through a really tough time.
Yes, they
with some leadership problems that trickled into all aspects of the services. But I will say that the leader of NKHS is working very closely with the leaders of all the other community partners to learn how to be there for our most vulnerable people. And so I don't know yet what the next step of social detox is, but what's happening is that collaboration is creating this ability to talk about what is the next step and what do we really need. Do we need just social detox? Do we need more social detox? Do we need inpatient treatment here? What are the things? Where's the co-occurring? What's happening? And so this is opening, not just this, but I think the Vibrant One and the progressive nature of the leaders that happen to be running these organizations right now are working together. We're actually sitting down and being real.
And not being threatened by each other.
Not being threatened by each other. No, there's none of that anymore. Yeah. Like, it's really like, okay, how are we going to help people?
Yeah.
And that is cool. And it
is cool.
It's like pretty.
And it's so unusual.
Yeah. And I would say, for me, it's such an honor to be able to work with all of the other executive directors and have it be this very, it's a very humble group of people. Nobody has anything to prove. We all just really want to help. Yeah. And that's how we're going to make this change. And that's the only reason that the social detox bed even happened, was because all of these other leaders got behind it. You know, I never really wanted it to just be Journey to Recovery. All I wanted was to help. I wanted to stop what was happening and find the way to do that. And then all the other leaders were like, yes, this is it.
So do we, right?
So do we. And so now, here we are. Now we're in this place where we get to survey the landscape.
Something that is building a track record. It's showing real evidence that this works.
And we're also getting to see, like, okay, who's coming in? How much is it fentanyl? How much is it alcohol? How much is it crack? Who has a co-occurring mental health struggle that we need to get clinical help for? Like, what does this all actually look like in real time?
Yeah.
And so we're able to understand our community in a very, like, on the ground way. And I think it is going to help us be able to help more people exactly the way they need it.
Do you ever consider what used to be called sober housing?
Oh. Yes, we dream about it all the time.
Next can of worms.
Yes, I think it's definitely an important next step, and it's something we need to figure out, and it's being talked about, absolutely. You know, housing, as we know, is such a hard,
housing as we know it is awful.
Yeah, and how are you supposed to get out of a substance use crisis if you are worried about being evicted, or you've been evicted, or you can't get to your job? You know, all of those pieces are all part of it.
Even if you have a roof over your head and can pay the rent, if you're going back into a neighborhood where everybody around you is using.
Yes, yes. So sober housing is really important. I think that it is, it's definitely, it will happen.
So if you put your wish list out there, and I mean, who knows, people have buildings, so if something was ever offered.
Yeah, I think that what we need is, it's really interesting to look at other models around the country.
And in other countries.
And in other countries, yes, that's true too. New Hampshire actually has a really nice model, and they have treatment that's between 60 and 90 days, that's inpatient, and then you step down into, it's sober housing, but it's very, you're on your own, but you are bused to the treatment facility every day for another 30 days, and then you're transitioned to housing, and it's affordable, and then you're partnered with different employers in the area, and it seems like this model is working, because it's like it's trickling people through treatment, teaching them how to live, be accountable, get jobs, and then the end result is this like fabulous sober community.
Right.
And that is what we need. Like, it's really hard here. Like, you come back to your same environment. Groups are pretty small. It's not like this booming place where you can just be surrounded by other people who are also trying not to do the same thing.
Yeah.
And we're working on it. And I do think that we can have that here. And I think it's in our future. I really do.
I hope so.
Yeah. So I think that those are all the next steps. I think it will happen. I do think that across the state, there's a lot of progressive leaders who are looking at this and who want the same thing. Like, we're seeing this need and wanting to create a really sustainable system.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if people watching this show are interested, they can contact you for more information.
Yep, they absolutely can. We have a website. It's jtr-cc.org. And the website's cool. It has like little quizzes and stuff on it too that can, like, if you're not sure you want to talk to anybody, like, it's really hard. It takes a lot of courage to reach out, and you can take a quiz. If you're not really sure if your loved one has a problem, you can read about all of that. And that is also another thing that we do, is we do support families, like people who have loved ones struggling, especially with fentanyl. It's so new and nobody knows what to do, and it's really easy to be like, why is my child or my mom stealing my wallet? And it's not that simple.
Right.
It's just really complex, and there's a lot of support. We offer a lot of support for people like that. So jtr-cc.org, or call the center at 802-624-4156. And you can email me at lbennett@NEK-TV.org. jtr-cc.org.
So you're pretty easy to reach.
Yes. We also do have social media.
I'm laughing because when I said this was the show I wanted to do today, somebody assumed that social detox meant it was something to do with Facebook or an equivalent.
Which is
and
so
yes, we all
funny.
need to detox from social
Yes.
media, but
I mean, I can understand now that you say that why somebody would think that. It's funny. We have Facebook, and actually people do message us on our Facebook page,
Yes.
and we are very responsive. Like, if you're not comfortable calling and you want to just talk to somebody, but you don't really, you're not sure, you can message the page. Someone
Yeah.
will get back to you. We talk to people all the time that way.
that's great.
Yeah.
And you have people available all the time, pretty much.
We do. Yeah, we do our best. We are still hiring, so, please, if you're interested.
So if people are interested in a job and who have a recovery background.
Yes, you need to have some shared or lived experience.
Right.
There is a lot of training. If you don't have training, the compassionate care work, working in the detox bed, you don't need to be a certified recovery coach to do
Right.
that. If you're interested in being a certified recovery coach, please do get in touch with me, because we're looking for more people who want to help.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And particularly those who have a lot to give back because of their own learned experience.
Yes, it's actually so beautiful to see people transition from sort of the throes of the darkness of addiction to finding a purpose and giving back, and
Right.
acts of service, even if you don't want to spend the rest of your life doing it. Acts of service are very therapeutic,
Yes,
and
they are.
being able to give somebody hope that was in your situation
Mhm.
really does.
And the fact that you're standing there is hope.
It's right. Just the fact that you're there is hope.
Right.
Yes. Yeah.
We are about out of time, so thank you so much for coming in and talking about this.
Thank you for having
And
me.
keep coming back,
I
because
would love to.
I bet you've heard that line before. Keep coming back.
Yes.
But it really is important, and there's such a need,
Hmm.
and it's hope.
And it's hope, and
Yeah.
and not judging. I think that's the most important thing that we all need to realize, is that, a substance use addiction, or, if someone's struggling with that, it's not because they're just inherently flawed. Like, there's
Right.
always more to the story. And anyone can recover. Absolutely anyone. And
Yeah.
anyone who thinks that they've burned all their bridges and they could never recover, they can recover.
Right.
It's possible. We've seen it. We help people.
And you're not a failure as a human being if you use medically assisted
That's
recovery.
right. We could do a whole show about that.
That's right. Well, actually, we probably should.
That would be great.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Good. That's your plan for the next one.
Okay.
Anyway, thank you for coming, and that's it for today.